To speak to the boss of the Victorian Responsible Gambling Foundation. The Responsible Gambling Foundation has been split off from the Department of Justice as a separate independent statutory authority. Its new CEO is Serge Sardo, who's been in the job for just long enough to get the place up and running and standing on its own 2 feet. Serge, good morning to you.
Good morning, John. Good to be here.
What does the Responsible Gambling Foundation do?
We have a number of functions. I mean, primarily we're there to provide treatment and support services to people experiencing problems with gambling. So almost half our funding is dedicated to providing counselling and treatment services. We run community education campaigns and awareness campaigns across the state. We have a significant research program of around $3 million a year. In fact, we fund significant pieces of research. And we also have the Gambling Information and Resource Office that's set up to provide information to people in the community. Specifically, we work with councils where they can access information related to planning permits and things like that. So we have quite a broad function that was primarily run within the Office of Liquor, Gaming and Racing before we existed.
So do you feel sometimes like that boy in the Dutch story about the little boy with his finger in the hole in the die?
Yeah. Oh, look, it can be a bit like that. Look, it's been an extremely rewarding and challenging few months since I've been there. We obviously have a lot of work to do. And certainly the foundation is focused on really trying to provide the best possible services to people who are experiencing problems, but also looking at more targeted and effective prevention programs.
But barely a day goes by when you don't hear of someone being processed through our courts. Our news is full of these stories. People being processed through the courts, massive frauds, gambling addictions, pokies addictions, the excesses of this industry, which it seems, it's irresistible, isn't it, to come to the conclusion that it pays lip service to the sort of work that you do whilst making as much money from problem gamblers as it can.
Yeah, look, John, if you want to lobby for us to get more money, John, I've obviously be very, very supportive for that. Look, I don't think it's too dissimilar to, say, to tobacco or alcohol. There's government that, there are taxes that are earned from those sorts of activities, and then there's money put back into the community to try and prevent some of the harm related, and we're not too dissimilar.
How many staff do you have?
At the moment, we have around 45. So we inherited around 32 staff from the Department of Justice, and now we're employing a variety of other staff as well. I mean, we have an enormous. One of our biggest challenges, John, is that less than 10% of problem gamblers actually seek professional help. So
it's tip of the iceberg stuff. Isn't
it's tip of the iceberg stuff. So we see around 6,000 clients a year that come to our services. We get around 14,000 calls a year to our hotline, but we know that is still the tip of the iceberg, and the primary reason for that, our research says, is around stigma and shame. So we are really committed to trying to get the voice of the problem gambler more out into the community. We need to follow the path that mental health has had, or mental illness has had, over the last 10 years, where people are talking more about problem gambling and being able to break down some of the misperceptions about people have for people with problems with gambling.
But at the same time, you have to be careful. If you take too much of an activist approach, does that get you into trouble with the people who are effectively providing the funding through taxes on their activities in the first place?
Well, look, community campaigns and awareness and making people with gambling problems more visible is not activist, is really just good public health promotions. We are not set up to be activists or lobbyists, but we do.
You don't want to bite the hand that feeds you.
Well, we do inform policy through our research, and so a lot of our research is used to inform the Office of Liquor, Gaming and Racing on policy directions, and that's how we see us being involved in policy regime, if you like. We're also really concerned about the current level of gambling advertising that's going on, so we're doing a number of activities to try and inform the community around the things to look out for. In particular, I think parents need to be aware of how this advertising and all the other gambling activities and games and apps that are around are affecting their children.
It's insidious. It sneaks in everywhere, whether it's in your text messages or advertising on websites. Yeah. It's just become part of the vernacular. You can't listen to the football without being told the odds for this, that and the other, and it drives us nuts. The reaction has been huge. But the response from the industry has been, oh, well, if you don't like it, don't listen.
Yeah, and look, I think that'll change because the community outrage at the moment is just enormous. So we're tackling it by, giving information and helping parents raise their own awareness so they can talk to their children about it. I mean, one of our concerns is that gambling within children and teenagers is really not seen as a dangerous activity. So smoking, alcohol is all on parents' radar, but not gambling. So we know that, in fact, some teachers actually may see gambling as a fun learning activity. So we really want to put gambling on the alert agenda for parents, because the biggest at-risk factor for problem gamblers is in fact gambling itself. So the earlier people gamble, the earlier teenagers gamble, the more likely they are of experiencing a problem with gambling as an adult.
But it's such a part of the Australian folklore, and whether it's, having a flutter on Cup Day or whatever it might be, buying the lottery tickets when they jackpot or whatever, it's just part of, it's part of, well, is it part of that culture, or is it something that's been tacked on for advantage of a few?
Yeah, look, there's no doubt that, gambling is well entrenched in the Australian culture. I think we do need to say that most people...
Two flies climbing up a wall.
Well, we do need to say that most people gamble responsibly. I think really we're talking about a small proportion of the population who are experiencing problems. But more concerning, it's the effect that this entrenchment and proliferation of gambling is having on our future generations. And that's what we're really concerned about. We don't want to get to a point where you'll be stigmatised for going to a football match if you don't gamble, just like going to an Aussie Day barbecue if you don't drink. So that's what we're really concerned about.
All right, well, there's some interesting research being done in other places as well, in the universities and the like, so I guess they're going to keep you honest, and we'll very much look forward to seeing, once you get into stride, in the early days now, just getting ready, but once you get into stride, where some of this eventually leads to, and what the tension ends up being between the Responsible Gaming Foundation and the industry that you're supposed to be keeping an eye on. Just one issue for you. One of your board members, in fact, runs pokies venues effectively now. One of your members of your board, Alan Jackson, has got a new job.
Oh, Peter Jackson.
Peter Jackson has got a job at Melbourne Football Club now, and they've got poker machines.
I think Peter's been brought in for a number of other reasons at Melbourne. Look, I know Peter personally, and I can say that he's been totally committed and dedicated to the functions of the foundation, and I'm sure he will remain so. But there is
a certain glaring conflict of interest in being on the board of the Responsible Gambling Foundation on the one hand, and being the CEO of a football club that runs pokies venues on the other.
Look, Peter does a great job, has been doing a great job with the foundation, and I'm more than confident that he will continue to do a great job with the foundation. My understanding is that his role at Melbourne is a temporary role, and he's really been brought in to look at, obviously, the woes that Melbourne have been having on the field.
As if they don't have enough without this one needing to be added to the list.
That's right.
Exactly. Serge, lovely to meet you, and keep us posted.
Can I just give a plug for our number if I can?
Sure.
For anyone who is experiencing a problem with gambling, we've got a 24/7 hotline, 1800 858 858. So don't hesitate to call that. If you
Once more, that's
1800 858 858.
858 858. Terrific, and thank you. Serge Sardo, CEO of the Victorian Responsible Gambling Foundation, newly established as an independent